The wind wasn't just cold. It was merciless. Snow slammed the cabin walls like fists. She sat by the hearth, clutching her fevered baby. Outside, she heard him. The man she once trusted. The man she swore she'd kill if he ever showed his face again. But the blizzard didn't care about their hate. Tonight he'd beg her for shelter, or die in the dark. He stumbled through the drifts, each step dragging ice and regret behind him. Snow clung to his beard, his breath ragged in the wind. His eyes were red from cold and memory. The cabin's candlelight flickered through frost-blurred glass, a promise of warmth and danger. He hesitated, but the storm screamed at him to move. He raised a trembling hand and knocked. 3 hard, slow knocks, which shuddered under his fist. Inside, she froze. Her baby whimpered in fevered dreams. She felt bile rise in her throat. She knew that knock, knew that voice would follow, and it did. "Is Hannah, for God's sake, open? Up." She pressed the child to her chest, eyes wet, voice shaking in prayer. "Lord, don't test me like this." The wind rattled the door so hard it seemed ready to break. He pounded again. "Hannah, I'm dying out here." She stood, legs weak with hatred. Memories swarmed, blood pooling on the floor, her husband's last breath, grave under frozen dirt. She grabbed the old rifle, thumb brushed the trigger. Again the voice, quieter now. "Please, I don't want to die." Her baby coughed, a wet, rattling sound. She felt terror clutch her heart. She looked at the door. She looked at her child. She swallowed her rage. With shaking fingers, she unlatched the door and yanked it open. Snow blasted in, clinging to his coat. He fell forward onto the floorboards, gasping. His eyes met hers, full of guilt, fear, and pleading. She aimed the rifle, square at his heart. "You move 1 inch toward my boy, I'll put you down." He shivered so hard he couldn't speak. Then, breath steaming, voice hoarse, "I'm not here to hurt you. I don't want to freeze." She spat at the floor. "You deserve it." He looked away, pain cutting deeper than the cold. "I know." For a moment, the only sound was the wind, roaring like an angry god. Her baby wheezed again. She lowered the rifle, just an inch. "Stay by the fire. Don't talk to me. Don't look at him." He crawled toward the hearth. His fingers hovered over the dying coals. He didn't dare turn his head. "I'm sorry, Hannah." Her voice cracked. "I don't want your sorry. I want my husband back." His eyes closed. "I know." Snow slammed the walls outside. The old roof creaked under its weight. Inside, hate and mercy sat in the same room, breathing the same stale air. She didn't dare take her eyes off him, didn't dare move. The fire cracked, the only warmth in a world of cold. Outside, the wind screamed even louder, and somewhere, beyond the door, they heard the wolves begin to howl. But what neither of them knew was that the storm wasn't the only thing closing in. The wind shrieked through every crack in the cabin, making the old timbers moan like something dying. She sat stiff in her chair, the rifle resting across her knees. Her eyes never left him. He huddled by the hearth, hands out to the fading coals. Smoke curled in the gloom. Its breath rattled in the silence. Outside, the wolves howled again, closer this time. He swallowed. "They smell us. Or the baby." Her jaw tightened. "You shut your mouth." He obeyed. But his shoulders shook not just from cold now, but fear. Snow fell from the roof in heavy clumps. The door shuddered in its frame. The wind felt alive, hungry. Her baby stirred and whimpered. Fever-slick skin, ragged breathing. She wiped his brow with a trembling hand. He watched from the corner of his eye. "You got medicine?" She didn't answer. He tried again, voice cracking. "Hannah, the boy. He needs willow bark. Something. Feveril, take him before the cold does." She turned on him, eyes blazing. "Don't you dare speak his name. Don't you dare speak about saving anyone's life." He flinched like she'd struck him. "I know what I did." Her voice broke. "You don't know a damn thing. You shot him like a dog, my husband, in front of me." The wind slammed the walls so hard the shutters threatened to tear free. The baby cried, thin and weak. Silence followed. thick as blood. He wiped his eyes with shaking fingers. I'm sorry, Hannah. I wasn't aiming for him. I was aiming for me. She lowered the rifle a hair. What the hell does that mean? He coughed, choked on the smoke. I couldn't face what I'd done. Wanted it over. Didn't care who died first. She blinked, anger cracking like old paint. Regret flickered. Behind it, another wolf howl. Closer. Louder. He turned to the door, eyes hard. We got no more wood. Fire's going to die. She said nothing. If you want to keep that boy breathing till dawn, someone has to go get more. Her grip on the rifle? You offering. He looked at her with a hollowness that chilled worse than the wind. I'll do it. I owe you that much. A long, bitter pause. Outside, the wolves cried again. Closer. She swallowed hard. If you don't come back, he met her gaze without blinking. Then you'll know I did one thing right. He stood slowly, joints cracking from cold, pulled his collar tight, looked at the boy one last time. He reached for the latch. The wind pushed against it, rattling like chains. She didn't say anything, didn't tell him to stop. He took a breath. That sounded like a dying man's prayer. Keep the fire alive for him, even if I don't come back. He opened the door. Snow swallowed him whole. The wind screamed shut the door behind him. She was left wondering if she'd just sent another man to his grave. The door slammed shut with the force of the wind, shaking the walls and making the old lamp flicker. She sat there, rifle heavy across her lap. Snow hissed against the glass. The wolves howled again farther this time, or maybe closer. Hard to tell. She listened for his voice, for any sign he was still alive out there. Nothing but the storm. Her baby whimpered, coughing wetly. She shifted him in her arms, felt how hot his skin burned. She rocked back and forth, the floor creaking under her. You hold on. You hear me? Don't you leave me too? The wind rattled the shutters like bones. She pressed her cheek to the child's forehead. Tears slipped down her face. For a moment she forgot the man in the snow. She forgot the wolves. There was only this tiny, fragile life burning up in her arms. A log in the hearth cracked, sending up a burst of sparks. Then the flames settled, guttering low. She turned her head, stared at the woodpile. Just a few sticks left. Not enough. The fire would die before dawn. She closed her eyes. She saw her husband's face in the dark, heard his laugh, felt the warmth of his hand on her shoulder. Then the memory shifted. Blood on the floor, his body in her lap. That man's pistol smoking. She let out a ragged breath. Damn you for coming here tonight. The wind roared. She flinched as something slammed against the door. She raised the rifle. Heart hammering, another crash, a shape. At the window, pale, moving, she held her breath, watched it was gone, outside. The wolves howled again. She stood slowly, legs stiff from fear and cold. She inched toward the door, pressing her ear against it. The wind screamed, then faint, muffled, a voice. Hannah. She swallowed hard. Hannah, open up. Shh. Pressed tighter, please. Let me in. Her fingers trembled on the latch. It's me. I've got wood. She sucked in a sharp breath. She didn't know if it was really him or something else. She had to choose. Open the door and risk letting the devil back in, or let the fire die and watch her baby freeze. Her hand trembled on the latch. The voice. Outside was ragged, desperate. Please, Hannah. So damn cold. Snow hissed at the crack under the door. The wind moaned like a dying animal. Rattling the shutters so hard she thought they'd fly off, she glanced back at her baby, lying feverish on the ragged blanket. His tiny chest rose and fell in shallow gasps. She bit her lip hard enough to taste. Blood. He'd killed her husband, but her child needed that wood. Her breath came in short, angry huffs. She closed her eyes tight, squeezing tears from the corners. God help me, she snapped the latch up. The door flew open with a blast of wind, snow swirling into the room like white ghosts. He stumbled inside, arms full of broken branches, shoulders coated in frost. His face was pale, lips cracked and bleeding. He collapsed onto the floor, the wood scattering. She raised the rifle instantly, training it on his heaving chest. He didn't even flinch. "Close it," he rasped. "The door, before we all freeze." Her eyes burned with hate. But she swung the door shut hard and forced the latch back down. Silence fell except for the wind screaming outside. Angry at being shut out, he lay, gasping. Snow melted in grimy rivulets across the floor. He lifted his head weakly. "Fire, for the boy." She didn't answer. She just grabbed the fallen wood with shaking fingers and fed it to the dying coals. The flames crackled, growing light. Filled the tiny cabin again. She felt the heat on her face. Felt the baby twitch, letting out a tiny cry. She swallowed the sob that rose in her throat. He watched her, eyes rimmed red, breath rattling. "I ain't asking you to forgive me." She didn't even look at him. "Good," she whispered, "because I won't." The wind howled so loud it felt alive. The wolves screamed in the dark. Closer now, he dragged himself upright against the wall, bones creaking. "We'll have to block the door. Wolves'll test it when the fire draws em." She finally turned, stared at him through the smoky glow. "Why do you care if they get us?" He looked at the child, then back at her. "'Cause you're the last thing I can make right." Her throat tightened, but she said nothing. The wind died for a breath. In that silence, they both heard scratching at the door. The wind dropped so suddenly it felt wrong. For one moment the only sound was the baby's labored breathing, the fire's weak crackle. Then the scratching came again, slow, deliberate. Fingernails on wood, he stiffened where he sat. Spine pressing the wall. His eyes darted to her, wide and alert. "Hannah, don't move." She kept the rifle trained on him. "You think I'm scared of you right now?" He didn't answer, turned his head to the door, listening. Another scrape, claws this time low. Growl. The baby whimpered in his fevered sleep. She felt sweat on her neck despite the cold. The fire threw long, shaking shadows over the walls. He shifted, reaching for the nearest log. "Don't you dare," she snapped. "I'll blow you in half. I'm not grabbing at you. I'm blocking the door." He lifted the heavy log slowly, deliberately, so she could see every move. He wedged it against the latch, reinforcing. The door rattled. She jumped outside, deep snarls. Heavy bodies hitting the wood. He pressed his back against it. "Yes. They can smell the fever." Her eyes shone in the dim light. "You brought them down on us. Should have died in the snow, like you deserved?" His jaw clenched. "Maybe, but I didn't. I came back." The door shook harder. Dust fell from the rafters. Her baby let out a choked cry. She hushed him frantically, voice cracking. "Please, please hush now." He didn't look away from the door. His voice was low, steady. "If they break in, you shoot me first. Don't waste a bullet on them until I'm gone." Her breath hitched. "I'd do it gladly." He nodded once, sad. "I know you would." Another slam. Wood groaning, he braced both hands against it. Face straining. "You need to keep that fire going. Keep him warm, no matter what." She felt tears run hot down her frozen cheeks. "Stop telling me what to do." He closed his eyes tight, pressing harder as the door flexed. "One last thing. To make right, Hannah, let me have it." She lowered the rifle a hair, breathing ragged. Another heavy thud at the door. The latch creaked. The door splintered with a sound like breaking bone. And she realized she might not have time to choose who to shoot first. The door buckled under. The force hinges groaning like a wounded man. The log he'd wedged cracked, a splintered tooth on the floor. Another slam. Harder. The wolves outside snarled and clawed. Their weight hit in bursts, thudding like battering rams. Inside, the baby screamed a raw, wet sound that shredded her nerves. She clutched him tight, trying to hush him, heart slamming so hard she thought it would burst. "Ouch! Please, baby, please." She couldn't hear her own voice over the wind shrieking through the gaps. The man pressed his shoulder to the door, both palms braced against it. He growled through his teeth as it bowed under him. "Get more wood, anything. Brace it." She didn't move. She was frozen. Tears spilled, hot against cold skin. Another crash. The latch tore half loose. The door leaped an inch inward, wind and snow lashing through. The wolves roared outside, feral. He turned, eyes wild. Hannah, her head snapped up. Do it now. She jerked like she'd been slapped. She stumbled to the side, one arm clutching the baby, the other grabbing for anything: stool, crate, loose boards. She slammed them against the door, stacking whatever she could, breathing in harsh, broken gasps. He groaned, pushing with all he had. Blood ran from a cut on his forehead, where a splinter had torn him. The wind screamed in triumph as another crack split the frame. She pressed her back to the barricade. Eyes locked on him. We can't hold it, she whispered. We have to. We can't. We have to. He barked. His voice cracked. She felt something break inside her. The baby wailed. Feverish, small, helpless, her vision blurred with tears. Why did you come back? She choked. Why didn't you just die out there? He shook his head, face twisting. Because I didn't want to go to hell without trying to fix one thing I ruined. A snarl outside. Nails raked the door. You can't fix it? She screamed. He met her gaze, something old and ruined and begging in his eyes. Let me try. Not another. Crashed the door, caved half in. A wolf's head forced through the gap's snapping jaws. Eyes glowing with savage hunger. She shrieked, swinging the rifle, smashing it into the creature's face. Blood sprayed. The beast yelped, but another shape shoved in behind it. Snow poured through. Wind howled like the devil itself. He lunged forward, body slamming the door, shoulder cracking. He roared in pain but didn't fall. He pressed with everything left in him, pinning the wolves outside with nothing but splintered wood and raw will. Hannah, take the baby. Get back. What about you? Just go. She hesitated for one frozen heartbeat. Then she ran, clutching the child to her chest. She skidded to the hearth. Dot. The flames sputtered in the wind. She grabbed a brand from the fire, turned back. He was still there, holding the door. But the gap was wider now. She saw yellow eyes, snapping jaws. Blood soaked his shirt. He turned to her one last time, eyes fierce, even as they filled with tears. If I tell you to run, Hanyu, run. Don't look back. She shook her head violently, voice breaking. I can't promise me. I promise me, she sobbed. Door finally gave with a cracking scream, and she realized keeping her promise might mean watching him die for her. The door split in half with a sickening crack. One hinge tearing free, snow and teeth and claws, burst into the room. The wind howled so loud it drowned her scream. He fell back with the door in his arms, trying to shield the gap. A wolf lunged past him, jaws wide. She lifted the rifle and fired. The shot lit the room with a white flash. Blood sprayed across the floorboards. The wolf yelped, twisted, slammed into the wall, its lifeless eyes staring. But another forced through the gap immediately. Fangs bared, foam at its mouth. He grabbed it. By the ruff, roaring like an animal himself. It bit deep into his forearm, blood blooming black in the firelight. He didn't let go. He twisted violently, slamming its skull into the broken doorframe. Bones cracked, the creature sagged, jaws still locked on his arm. He screamed in pain, but didn't fall, she sobbed. Clutching the baby so tight he whimpered. The fire hissed as snow blew across it, embers dying under white ash. Keep it alive, he bellowed through gritted teeth. Get that fire going. She blinked at him, tears freezing on her lashes. Please, please, don't now. She fell to her knees, scrabbling in the ashes for any ember. Left. Sparks stung her fingers. She ignored it. She grabbed the smallest brand, shielding it with her body, feeding it sticks one by one until it caught. He shoved the dead wolf away, tearing its teeth from his arm with a wet rip. Blood gushed. He staggered, grabbing a broken chair leg with his good hand. The last wolf was halfway in now, eyes glowing with that hungry madness. He didn't hesitate. He charged it. The beast met him with a snarl that rattled her bones. They crashed to the floor in a tangle of limbs and fur and blood. She screamed his name without thinking. But he heard it. Even in the chaos, he heard it. His eyes snapped to her. For 1 second, everything stopped. "Run," he mouthed. She didn't move. The wolf clawed at him, teeth finding his shoulder. He slammed the chair leg into its mouth over and over, splinters driving deep. Blood soaked them both. The wind tore the roof shingles. Snow fell in drifts inside. She clutched her baby, rocking, sobbing. The fire flared. The last of the wolves let out a choking whimper and went limp in his arms. He lay there panting, blood pouring from 6 wounds. The wind outside fell silent. For a single breath, she heard nothing but the fire and his ragged breathing. She stood slowly, on shaking legs. Her eyes met his. "Why?" she whispered. His head rolled against the floorboards. He smiled, broken, bloody. Had to fix something. She took a step closer. "Tom," his eyes fluttered. "Keep the fire going." His breathing hitched, then went silent. She fell to her knees, screaming his name, unsure if he was gone or if she was too late to save even this last ruined mercy. She crawled across the blood-slick floorboards, the fire flickering wildly behind her, wind shrieking through the half-shattered door. Her baby wailed in her arms. She clutched him tight against her chest, his fever-hot cheek pressed to her collarbone. As she reached out with her free hand, "Tom, please." His chest barely moved. Blood soaked his shirt, his coat, the ruined door beneath him. The smell of iron and wet dog filled the room. She pressed her fingers to his throat. Flutters so faint, she almost missed it. "Don't you dare die," she hissed through tears. "Don't you dare leave me to hate you forever." Lightning cracked outside, white light throwing their ruined cabin into stark relief. The bodies of wolves littered the floor. Steam rising from blood as it met the freezing wind. Snow blew in sideways, collecting in drifts around their feet. Fire struggled, eating through the last of the wood. She forced herself to her feet. She laid the baby down gently by the hearth, pulling every rag and blanket she could around him. He whimpered, coughed. She pushed hair from his sweaty brow. "Here, I won't let the cold take you." But the wind cut through every crack, chilling the room to its bones. She turned back to Tom. He was shivering violently now, blood loss fighting the freezing air. She felt the old rage rise. "He killed my husband." Her lip trembled. "He ruined my life," she swallowed. But when she looked at him again, at the blood on his hands, at the ruin of his face, she saw not a monster. She saw a man who'd held the door with his body, a man who'd told her to run, a man who'd asked her to keep the fire going. She dropped the rifle. It clattered on the floor, the sound lost in the roar of the wind. She knelt beside him, grabbed his coat in her fists. "Stay with me," she growled. "You're not buying your salvation so easy." His eyes fluttered open, cloudy, weak. "Hannah." His voice was a rasp. "Fire. For the boy." She slammed her palm against his cheek. Not hard. Just enough to wake him. "Don't you tell me what to do." A tear fell on his face. "You want to make this right? Then don't you dare die before you see it done." He swallowed hard, a rattling breath. "I'm sorry." Her face twisted. "I know." The wind howled even louder, rattling the roof. She looked at the fire. It's almost gone. She looked at the wolves' bodies, then back at Tom. She forced herself to stand. Hands shaking, she grabbed the nearest carcass by the leg and dragged it toward the fire. The smell was rank, the blood sticky on her palms, but she didn't care. She hacked at it with a broken knife, splitting bones, peeling flesh. She fed the fire with everything it would take. Fur, fat, grease, bone. The flames roared back to life, snapping greedily. Smoke billowed. The stench was foul, but heat filled the cabin. She turned back to him, chest heaving. "I'll keep it going," she whispered. "For him, for you, for all of it." He closed his eyes, tears leaking down his grime-caked cheeks. But as she fed the flames, she wondered if she'd traded one kind of death for another, and if forgiveness was even possible in a room that smelled of blood and fire. The fire roared and hissed as the greasy meat fed it. Painting the tiny cabin, in flickering hellish light, smoke curled along the ceiling. Stinging her eyes, she wiped her arm across her nose, smearing soot and blood on her cheek. The baby whimpered in his nest of rags, coughing, but the heat was finally cutting the chill. She rushed back to him, pulling the blankets tighter, whispering words she didn't even know she remembered. "Mama's here. Hush now, you're warm, you're safe." But the wind outside bellowed in reply, shaking the walls. It wasn't done with them. She turned slowly to Tom. He hadn't moved. His eyes were shut, white with frost. Face pale beneath smears of blood, she crawled over the ruined floor. Avoiding the carcasses, she pressed her hand to his chest. A faint rise, a ragged, rattling breath. "Tom," she said, "look at me." She slapped his cheek. "Don't you dare." His eyelids fluttered. A groan escaped his split lips. "Why? Won't you let me go?" She glared at him through tears. "'Cause you don't get to choose when you're forgiven," he swallowed, wincing. "Don't lie to me, Hannah." She closed her eyes, throat tight. The baby coughed. The wind shrieked. She opened her eyes and looked at him. "Fine. I hate you. I'll hate you forever if you want. But you don't get to die before you help me save my son." Tried to laugh. It came out wet, choked, bossy as ever. She grabbed his coat lapels in both fists. "Stay awake. Tell me how to stop the bleeding." He blinked slowly, the firelight dancing in his glassy eyes. "Press. Tight." Above, she ripped a strip of blanket with her teeth, tied it above his torn arm, pulling until he screamed. She didn't loosen it. "Good," he gasped. "Don't be gentle." She slapped his face lightly again. "Don't fall asleep." Baby wailed again. She shot a look over her shoulder. The fire was high, but needed. More fuel, more carcass. She looked at Tom, at the wolves, at her crying son. "Tell me what to do next." He let out a harsh, rattling breath. "Block the door. With bodies cold, we'll freeze them stiff. Hold till morning." She nodded once, jaw clenched. "What about you?" His eyes didn't leave hers. "Don't worry about me." "Not an option," she snapped. She shoved to her feet. Nearly falling, her legs were numb. She grabbed another wolf corpse, dragging it toward the gap where the door had been. She stacked it, ignoring the blood soaking her dress. The wind howled, in fury, cold clawing at her bones. But she kept going. She turned back. Breathing hard, chest heaving, Tom was watching her through half-lidded eyes. "Hannah, what?" "Thank you." She froze. Anger and grief and hate and something softer all fought in her chest. "Don't you dare thank me yet. You're not off the hook." A sudden crash above them made her head snap up. The roof groaned under heavy snow, beams bending. She realized the next danger might come from above. She didn't know if she could save anyone from that. Asterisk. The roof groaned again, deep, low, like the growl of something waiting to fall. Snow packed heavy above them, pushed by the screaming wind. Hannah's breath caught. She turned in a slow circle. Eyes on the sagging rafters, splinters fell like dust. The baby let out a thin, exhausted cry behind her. Tom coughed, blood wetting his lips. She forced herself to move, boots slipping in frozen blood and melted snow. She dropped beside him, shaking him by the coat. "Tom." His eyes cracked open, dull and watery. "Roof," she hissed. "It's gonna give." He swallowed, jaw twitching in pain. "Center beam." Cracked. He coughed, grimacing. "Brace it." "Pull." Bored. She looked around wildly. Nothing but broken furniture. Charred wood. Blood-slick wolf carcasses. Her hands shook. "I don't have anything left." Shivered, voice fading. "Find something." The baby's cough turned to a cry that rattled. She whipped her head around. He was blue at the lips. "No." She breathed. She crawled to the hearth, raking burning brands together. Pushing the heat toward him, she threw another shredded scrap of fur on top. Ignoring the stink, the flames caught and roared. The roof creaked louder. Snow dust drifted from the seams. She turned back. Tom was trying to sit up. She shoved him down. "Don't you move," he snarled weakly. "Gonna die anyway." "Not now," she snapped. "Not yet." He let out a breath that sounded like a laugh. "You're a devil, Hannah." Even now her eyes filled. "Shut up. Save your strength." Another groan from overhead, a sharp crack. She flinched as a board split, hanging crooked. Tom's gaze followed it. "It'll bury us all." "Not if I can help it." "How?" She didn't answer. She was scanning the room. Her eyes fell on the rifle. She grabbed it, checking the barrel empty. She cursed and smashed it against the floor. Wood cracked. Metal bent. She wrenched the barrel free, holding it up like a crude support. Tom squinted. "That won't hold. It's all I've got." He closed his eyes. "Do it." She dragged herself to the center, where the main beam was bowing under the weight. She jammed the barrel up under it, pushing with all her strength. It creaked, shifted. Snow sifted down like ghostly ash. "Hold," she whispered. "Hold for me." Tom's breathing rattled behind her. The baby's cries turned hoarse. She pressed the barrel harder, till her arms shook. A gust outside screamed like a banshee. The wind found every crack enforced. "It's cold fingers in," she sobbed once, choked, but didn't stop pushing. Tom watched her, tears leaking from his eyes. "Hannah." She didn't turn. "What?" "I'm sorry. For all of it." She let out a broken sound, half laugh, half sob. "Too late for that. Say it anyway." The roof groaned once more. She felt it shift. "Hannah?" "What?" "If it comes down, save him. Not me." Her voice cracked. "Don't you dare ask me that. Promise." "Tom, promise me." She let out a shuddering breath. She opened her mouth to answer, but the roof above them gave a sudden, splitting roar that drowned every word. The roof let out a deep, monstrous crack. Snow and shards of old timber rained down. Hannah screamed as the main beam split in two with a thunderous snap. She threw her body over the baby, curling him tight to her chest. The broken rifle barrel clanged. To the floor, SELESSLY. Cold wind howled through the widening gap. Tom tried to rise, blood-streaked. From his arm and shoulder, where his stitches had torn open, he braced one leg, grit his teeth, and shoved himself toward her. "Hannah." She didn't answer. She was coughing on plaster dust. Blinking through tears, the baby wailed, muffled against her dress. She forced her head up. Above her, the roof sagged like a dying animal, snow piled high, about to crash. Tom grabbed a splintered chair leg and limped forward. "Move," he bellowed hoarsely. "Get him out." She shook her head wildly. "There's no time." "Damn it, Trun." He fell forward on his knees, using his body to brace the beam, blood smearing the wood. He groaned in agony. "Go, Hannah. I can't leave you." He let out a broken laugh that turned into a cough. "That's the idea." She shook as she clutched the baby, heat pouring off the fire behind her. The snow roared outside, whipping through every seam, freezing everything it touched. The smell of burned fur and blood made her gag. She crawled, backward, sobbing. "Don't you dare save him," he snarled, voice cracking. "Don't waste this." A sharp crack rang out above them. The beam gave another inch. Snow cascaded in. Wind howled like a demon. Tom's arms shook violently as he pushed against the wood. Blood dripped from his mouth. "Go, Tom." "Run!" She turned and ran. The baby in her arms shrieked in fear. She dove behind the hearth, tucking him into the warmest corner she could find. Shielding him with her body, she pressed her cheek to his hair, tears freezing on her lashes. "Mama's here. Mama's here." Tom let out one last roar of effort. The beam cracked again, then held. He sagged, gasping. "Good boy, Hannah." His voice faded into a wet, choking cough. He slumped forward, forehead resting. On the beam, arms limp, Snow piled around his legs, swirling in the wind that screamed through the ruined cabin. Hannah sobbed against the baby's hair. The fire hissed and spat, smoke curling along the beams. The wind was everywhere now, a freezing monster with 100 claws. But for a moment, the roof didn't fall. The beam held. Because of him, she forced herself to look back over her shoulder. His body was half buried in snow. Motionless blood smeared the broken wood. Tom, no answer, just the wind and the baby's broken cries. She realized if the storm didn't kill them by morning, the cold would. And she didn't know if she had the strength to keep fighting alone. Asterisk. The wind rattled the broken cabin like a man trying to shake sense into a corpse. Snow spun through the air in wild, white chaos. Hannah pressed her back against the hearth, baby tight in her arms. Listening to the storm's roar and Tom's silence, he was slumped over the cracked beam, arms spread wide like some ragged cross, blood staining the snow that piled around his legs. She blinked tears from her eyes, blinking at the flickering, dying fire. "Don't you quit on me too," she whispered at the flames. They hissed and guttered. The fuel spent. The hacked wolf carcasses were frozen stiff again, too wet and cold to burn well. Her fingers were cracked and bleeding from the cold. The baby wheezed, rattling with fever. His breath, tiny clouds in the freezing air. She felt something shatter inside her. She slammed her palm against the stone hearth. "Damn you, Tom," the wind swallowed her voice. "You idiot, stubborn, damned fool." Her voice broke on, a sob. "I didn't want you to die for us." She pressed her cheek to the baby's head, sobbing into his sparse hair. "I didn't want any of this." The roof groaned but held, barely. Snow piled higher outside, covering the windows in a choking frost. Wind screamed through every crack, searching for them like fingers of the dead. She shivered violently, teeth chattering. She forced herself to move, sliding forward on hands and knees. She reached for Tom's shoulder. It was cold. She shook him. Tom. His head lolled to the side, eyes closed, his mouth slacked, blood frozen at the corner of his lips. She pressed her fingers to his throat. Nothing. A sob burst from her chest. She rested her forehead against his arm, closing her eyes. "Sorry." Her voice was nothing. "I'm sorry I hated you so long. I'm sorry I didn't say it before you had to do this." The baby coughed behind her. She jerked back, wiped her eyes on her sleeve. "I know," she whispered. Hoarsely, "I know. I'm coming." She crawled back, gathering him up. His eyes fluttered weakly, lips blue. She rocked him in her arms. "Stay with me. Stay, baby. Don't you go too." She looked around, cold, blood, broken wood. Tom's lifeless form blocking what was left of the roof from crashing down. The fire almost dead. No more fuel. She had nothing left to burn but herself. Her gaze fell on Tom again. Her heart lurched. No, God. She pressed the baby tighter to her. But he's gone. He doesn't need it anymore. She swallowed hard, stomach twisting. She crawled back to Tom. Hands trembling, she began to pull at his coat. "I'm so sorry." She worked with frozen fingers, peeling the blood-stiffened coat from his cooling body. "You said save him." "I'm trying. I swear I'm trying." She dragged it back to the hearth, wrapped it around the baby. It stank of blood and sweat and cold. But it was warm. He whimpered once, curling tighter. She collapsed beside him, exhausted, eyes burning. "I'm sorry, Tom," outside the wind shrieked louder than ever. And in that moment, with the storm trying to rip the walls apart, she wondered if forgiveness was enough to keep them alive till morning, or if mercy had cost them everything. The wind battered the cabin like a drunk with a grudge. Boards rattled in their warped frames. Snow piled against the door, choking what little light the dying fire cast. Hannah lay curled around the baby, Tom's heavy coat wrapped around them both. She could feel his blood on her fingers, sticky and cold. The baby whimpered, small lungs too tired to even cry. She pressed her lips to his forehead. So cold, she closed her eyes tight. Not you. Not after all this. Don't you give up now. Her own breath felt like knives in her chest. She fought to keep it slow, even to stop shivering. But it was no use. She looked at the ruined roof. Where snow drifted in around Tom's body, he still held the beam. Even dead. Holding it for them, eh? Sob crawled up her throat, but she swallowed it down. You stupid, stubborn bastard, her voice cracked. You did it. Gave us this chance. I won't waste it. The baby coughed. A rasping, wet sound that made her gut twist. She felt for his face. Ice on his cheeks. She rubbed them, desperate. Stay with me. We're all I've got, please. A blast of wind forced the door further open, sending a swirl of icy powder over them. She gasped as it hit her face. The fire hissed and died 2 embers. Darkness swallowed them. For a moment she just lay there, listening to the wind scream like souls, in torment, hearing the house creak and shift. It's like old bones feeling the child slow in her arms. No, not yet. She forced herself upright. Her limbs were dead weight. She staggered to the hearth and found one glowing coal. Just one. She stared at it like it was salvation. She crawled back to Tom's body. Her breath hitched at the sight of his slack face, half buried in snow. She dug with shaking hands at the frozen floor, found one more scrap of wolf fur, stiff with blood. She shoved it against the glowing coal. Blue, hard. The coal flickered, died. She sobbed, blue again. Mouth raw from cold. This time, the fur caught. A tiny, wretched flame. She cupped her hands around it, shielding it from the wind sneaking in, fed it thread by thread. Scrap by scrap. Everything she had left, even a bit of her own hair. Hacked off with her knife. Slowly, it grew. A week. Hissing fire. Barely enough, but enough. She crawled back, dragging the baby into its heat, pressing him close. He shuddered, gasped, but didn't stop breathing. She rested her forehead against his. That's it. That's my boy. Don't quit. She looked back at Tom one last time. He was gone, truly gone. But the roof still held. Because of him, she squeezed the baby tighter. You'll live. You'll grow. You'll know what he did for you. I swear it. But as the wind howled even louder, and the walls shuddered, she wondered if even sacrifice and fire would be enough, or if they were just waiting to die in the dark. The wind roared like a hungry beast, rattling the cabin so hard, Hannah thought the walls might fly apart. Snow blew in every crack, sharp as needles. She clung to the baby by the fire she'd nursed from a single coal, shielding it with her body. The flames shivered, guttered, but they lived. For now, her eyes burned from smoke and exhaustion. Her lips cracked, bleeding when she whispered prayers she didn't believe in anymore. Lord, if you're there, don't let him die. The baby's breath steamed weakly against her throat. She rocked him in place. You hear me? Don't take him too. Haven't you taken enough? The wind shrieked back at her, mocking. She pressed her cheek to the boy's icy hair. Her tears froze. Before they fell, she let them. She had no more warmth to spare. The fire cracked. She startled, thinking it was the roof breaking. Her eyes darted to Tom, still there, propped like a statue against the beam. Arms spread, body dusted with drifting snow. He looked like a martyr carved in ice. You bastard, she whispered hoarsely. You stubborn, damned fool. Why couldn't you live? Her voice cracked. Why'd you leave me with this? She shook her head, biting her lip to keep from screaming. She couldn't waste the breath. She turned her focus back to the baby, rubbed his little feet between. Her palms listened for breath. It was there thin, but there she rocked him again. Tom wanted you to live. Do you understand? He died so you could. The baby whimpered, his voice almost gone. She swallowed the sob. Don't you waste that. Don't you dare. The wind howled again, shaking the roof so hard flakes of plaster fell. The fire threatened to die as the gust forced in cold. Hannah threw her own hair into the flames, dry and brittle. It flared, enough to keep the embers angry. She pressed her forehead to the baby's. If I burn, I burn. But you'll see spring. Her eyes drifted to Tom, so still. Snow piling on his shoulders, his face ghostly pale. I hated you so much, she whispered. All these years, blaming you, hating you for what happened. Her voice broke. Again, and you saved us. She let out a sound between a laugh and a sob. Maybe you're the better person after all. She wiped her face roughly on her sleeve. Blood from her cracked lips stained the fabric. The wind rose to a shriek, slamming the door wider. Snow billowed in, threatening the fire again. She dove forward, blocking the gust with her back. Snow coated her hair, melted and refroze on her clothes. I won't let it take us. Not tonight. She hissed as she forced the door shut with her shoulder. Using every ounce of her strength, she dragged a broken chair against it, wedging it tight. Breathing hard, she turned back. The baby was coughing. She crawled to him, gathering him up, held him so close she could feel his heart. You hear that storm? She whispered. You tell it no. Tell it you're not dying tonight. Her teeth chattered. She forced a smile he couldn't see.
Oh.
Your mama said no. But as the wind wailed like the devil himself, she realized there was no more fuel, and wondered if love alone could keep a fire burning till dawn. The wind battered the door with a violence that shook her bones. The fire coughed smoke. Embers scattered like dying stars.
Hot!
On the frozen floor, Hannah pressed the baby tighter. She could feel his ribs, hear the soft failing breath. She swallowed hard. No, the word was a promise, a prayer, a threat. She looked at the scraps around her. Nothing left. No wood, no fur, no hair, just the baby. And her, she felt the tears come hot despite. The cold, they froze on her lashes as they fell. She pressed her mouth to his head. You will see spring. Do you hear me? She rocked him, fighting the trembling in her own body. Her vision blurred. Darkness crowding in from the edges. A beam creaked overhead. Snow fell on Tom's body, even in death. He held the roof. She blinked. At him. Thank you, she whispered, voice raw. I hated you so much, and you saved us. Her chest hurt. I won't waste it. She pulled the baby even closer, wrapped herself around him completely, let her coat gape open so his tiny body could steal her last warmth. The fire flickered. She held her breath, willing it to catch. It sputtered, then burned a little brighter. That's it. See? Just hold on, just a little longer. The wind screamed outside, ripping at the house. Snow leaked in, settled on her hair, her shoulders. She didn't feel it anymore. She watched the firelight play across Tom's dead face. The ghost of a man she'd sworn to hate. Now her last ally. I forgive you, she breathed. Can you hear me? Forgive you? Her voice broke. Please, forgive me too. The baby stirred weakly. She felt it like salvation. She rocked him, humming something tenderness. Old a lullaby her mother used to sing. The words cracked in her throat, but she forced them out. Sleep, baby. Sleep. Mama's here. The wind didn't care. It howled and battered. It was furious at being denied its meal. But the fire held so small, so stubborn. She closed her eyes, praying to any god who would listen. Praying to Tom, praying. To the child himself, stay please. Stay. She felt herself fading cold, sinking into her bones. But in the silence between heartbeats, she heard the baby draw breath. One more and another. She let out a sob. That's it. That's my boy. She leaned her head back against the wall. Firelight painting ghosts on the ceiling. The storm screaming its fury at being denied. She knew she might not see morning, but she'd given him the chance. And that was enough. Because sometimes mercy means giving up your life, so someone else can find theirs. And as dawn threatened somewhere beyond that raging storm, she asked herself one last question. Was love enough to hold off death? Even if she wouldn't live to see the answer, if you felt her sacrifice in your bones, if you shivered at that storm, then don't just leave. Like this video. Subscribe for more stories that make you feel alive. Tell us in the comments, would you give everything to save someone you love? Or would you survive alone? Your answer matters here. Don't leave without sharing it.